The cages lined the hangar like rows of broken stars. Inside each one crouched something between woman and weapon, silver eyes gleaming beneath wild, tangled hair. They called them the Varen Feral Units, failed experiments of the Dominion War. Untamable, the traitors said. Killers without command. Corpses proved them right. The last buyer had been torn apart before he could even finish a sentence. So when a human, just a human, stepped into the auction square, laughter rolled through the crowd. "What's your offer, off-worlder?" sneered the merchant. Elias Dorn lifted his wrist chip. "Everything I own." A hush fell. The chip glowed with a life's worth of credits, his ship, his weapons, even his citizenship tag. The merchant blinked. "You're mad. They'll rip you to shreds before you reach the door." "Maybe," Elias said softly, "but they deserve to walk free once before they die." The merchant shrugged. "Your funeral." The transaction light flickered green. They released the locks. Metal hissed open, and 6 alien girls stepped out, each barefoot, silent, eyes burning with the animal alertness of survivors. Elias didn't move. He simply knelt. One tilted her head, scenting the air. Another bared her fangs. "Go," he said quietly. "You're not slaves anymore. No commands. No collars. No threat. Just freedom." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the tallest of them, skin streaked with pale blue markings, stepped closer. Her voice was raw and used. "You would free us?" "Yes." She studied him with suspicion sharp enough to cut steel. "No human gives without taking." Elias met her gaze. "Then consider it payment for all the humans who didn't." The silence that followed felt like a planet holding its breath. Then, with a low growl that was half sob, she dropped to her knees. The others followed. "We owe you," she said, "until death." They left the trade world that night aboard Elias's rusted freighter, the Kestrel. The 6 ferals, Naira, Vesh, Kira, Sol, Loon, and Meryl, moved through the corridors like ghosts rediscovering light. They'd been bred for war, genetically engineered to synchronize in combat, then discarded when they proved too independent. Dominion scientists had labeled them feral because they refused command neural implants. Elias didn't treat them as soldiers. He taught them to eat without ration alarms, to sleep without cages, to laugh at bad jokes. The first time Naira smiled, awkward and uncertain, it nearly broke him. But not everyone saw them that way. Word spread fast, a human traveling with 6 feral Varen sisters. To bounty hunters and slavers, that meant profit beyond measure. To the Dominion, it meant unfinished property. They came for him on the edge of the Sereth Belt. The ambush tore through the Kestrel's hull, alarm screaming as plasma bolts shredded the outer decks. Elias barely managed to reroute power to shields before the ferals were already moving, faster than he could see, a blur of claws and telepathic coordination. "Stay behind me," he shouted. Naira's eyes flared gold. "No. You freed us. Now we fight for you." The 6 became a storm. They leapt through decompression hatches, tore into armored boarding troops, moved like one living creature split into 6 bodies. Elias saw, for the first time, what the Dominion had feared, perfect unity born not from programming, but from loyalty freely given. When the last hunter ship exploded into debris, silence filled the void. Elias stood at the viewing deck, hands shaking. "You didn't have to do that." Naira stepped forward, blood and starlight streaking her face. "You gave us names," she said. "Now they have meaning." Weeks passed. The Kestrel limped between dead systems, hiding from trackers. The girls slowly learned peace, music, painting, even cooking. Sol insisted the smell of burnt bread was a victory, though no one agreed. Sometimes, When they thought he was asleep, Elias heard them whisper to each other. About him. About the strange calm that came from his presence. They had known only command and cruelty before. His kindness was something they didn't have words for. And sometimes, just sometimes, Naira would sit beside his bunk and ask questions. Why risk your life for creatures like us? Elias would smile faintly. Because someone once did the same for me. She tilted her head. Were you feral too? In a way, he said softly. Just a soldier no one wanted back. The past caught them on the frozen world of Varkun 7, where Dominion Command finally deployed an entire cruiser group to retrieve their property. This time, there would be no escape. Elias stood at the heart of the control bay, surrounded by 6 figures ready to fight an empire. If they take you, they'll make more cages, he warned. Go. Scatter. Live. Naira shook her head, her expression fierce. We follow you, human. Naira. She stepped closer, placing a clawed hand against his chest. We were bred for orders. You gave us choice. And we choose you. He looked into her eyes, bright, unbreakable, and realized there was no arguing. So he nodded. Then we end this together. The battle that followed became legend. The Dominion fleet rained fire from orbit, but the Ferals moved like living lightning across the snow. Elias coordinated from the ground, guiding orbital strikes with precision, while the sisters dismantled entire platoons using synchronized telepathy. At the height of the fight, the Dominion Admiral himself descended, wielding a neural disruptor meant to disable Varen minds. When the beam struck Naira, she collapsed screaming. Elias didn't think. He ran straight into the line of fire, taking the blast meant for her. The world went white. The last thing he heard was her voice echoing in his mind. No. You cannot die, human. Not you. When he woke, everything was quiet. The snowstorm had stopped. Around him stood the 6 sisters, alive, scarred and kneeling. The Dominion fleet was gone, wreckage burning in the distance. Naira's voice trembled. We thought you were gone. Almost, he rasped. Guess you're stuck with me. Her eyes softened. Then we are free because of you. Elias smiled faintly. No. You were always free. You just needed to believe it. Years passed. The Dominion fell. The Varen Ferals became myth, guardians of border colonies, rescuers of the enslaved. And at the center of every tale was the human who'd spent everything he had to give them freedom. The galaxy called him the keeper of the untamed. But among the 6 sisters, he was simply Elias. On the anniversary of their escape, they gathered atop the cliffs of Lune's new homeworld. The sunset burned gold over the sea. Naira stood beside him, her hand finding his. You gave us our lives, she whispered. What can we give you in return? He turned toward her, the wind tugging at his worn coat. Just this. Stay free. She smiled then, a real one, no longer haunted. We will. But freedom without you means nothing. He looked at her, at all of them, 6 beings who had once been weapons, now sisters, leaders, protectors. And for the first time in years, he felt at peace. As the suns dipped below the horizon, Naira's voice brushed his mind, soft as breath. You freed us once, Elias. Now let us guard you, always. He didn't argue. He just nodded. And when the stars rose, 7 figures stood silhouetted against the light, 6 alien sisters and 1 human who had taught them the meaning of choice. Together, they watched the dawn of a new galaxy. And